And we're back, and now we have Black Girl Marvel with us. So we are here to talk about the Suicide Squad. And we were just about to rate the original, the 2016 original. That's weird to say. The original Suicide Squad 2016 airs film. And we had already kind of discussed it between me and Mr. Marvelite. So we'll just get Lala's overall feeling of the film, and you just give us your rating right after that. So go ahead, Lala.
12-year-old self mailing me, or just on the rating?
You go ahead and give us your overall view of it, and then go ahead and rate it.
Wait, which rating am I doing? Both of them, like the 12-year-old and
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. The typical. Yeah.
oh, okay, typical rating. And this is the Will Smith one, right? This is what I'm
Yes.
distinct with them. It was okay. That's my overall rating. Honestly, I don't have really much to say about it. There are parts of it that I thoroughly enjoy. I enjoy Will Smith's shooting scene when they're trying to recruit him. Um, I always enjoy, for the most part, Harley Quinn. Margot Robbie. But the movie was like, I felt like the plot let it down more so than the actors did. So, like, that's my general overview.
Eh,
I wanted to be stronger.
It's funny because you basically just said what me and Marvelite said, but you said it in a minute, so you're making me feel kind of inadequate.
So I'm
So,
here for it. No.
Short
because
and
you
sweet.
even you even like, as I mentioned, the Will Smith shooting scene. Anyway, it's hilarious,
That's my thing. But this is why we all work together. It's
right?
right. My 12-year-old self would have probably like not made this a 10, but I think my 12-year-old self would have been like, oh, this is a 9. Because this is like, it shoot 'em up, bang, bang. It's like funny. You got girls doing cool stuff. So, like, I don't think my 12-year-old self would mind it. Me, yes, that was my take on the 2016 Suicide Squad. Me personally, I give it, I mean, like I said, it has good moments, and there are moments that I go back for. And I can really go into this, but maybe I'll do that on my TikTok. Maybe I'll make it a thing on my TikTok where I go a little in on all the Suicide Squad movies. Um, I give it a solid 6.
A
It's not
solid six.
horrible, but I don't rewatch the whole thing. I rewatch my favorite parts.
So you watch
Then I
until
go
the
about,
roof scene, and then you give up, like I do.
yeah. Then
See, it's like you were here the whole time. Not really, but
it was a beat.
um, what about you, Mr. Marvelite? What do you rate it?
I'm gonna make one comment and I'll give you my rating. And I think it's the thing that you and I have spent so much time talking about this film already. I mean, we're already at 10:54, and Lala basically just gave the entire synopsis of what we're spending, the last 54 minutes talking about, which is fantastic. But we did not mention one thing that just drives me nuts about this film, and it's even more noticeably bad now that we're seeing the James Gunn, the Suicide Squad, and I'm gonna just talk about it for a minute, and that's Killer Croc. Killer Croc is just terrible now. Like they put the guy in makeup. Like, come on, like Killer Croc was supposed to be a Killer Croc, and
Okay, I know what you're saying because you expect like the Jim Lee like huge
yes,
monstrous like okay, so but here's the thing:
yes,
Killer Croc in the original comic books was exactly what we see in the Heirs movie, exactly
oh,
like to a T. Like they nailed him actually, which is creepy because how did they do that? Um, I actually liked Killer Croc in this movie because I went back and did a little of the digging and found that that was the original iteration, which means they could do something to where something happens to him in another movie because he's not dead or anything; he's still around,
right.
so he could show up.
Or he died in a previous mission we don't know about with Task Force X.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So I do understand your because that's what I was expecting too. I was expecting it, and when I got home from that movie, I was like Killer Croc, man, and then I went and looked it up and went, oh, well, that's interesting. Well, crap, I can't be as upset, but I still get it because I still expected that. But I digress.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
one last
So it
thing,
just bothered me.
Lala, what do you think of Leto's Joker? Because we didn't cover that with you.
Oh, it's a different take on what I wanted to see as a Joker. Like we have such good performances like Jack Nicholson and Heath Ledger and I mean, those are my Jokers. Like I don't know any Jokers before that. I know we have like, is it a Romero? Is it, I don't know. It's a Joker, but I know we have like a TV Jokers and things like that. But those two are my Jokers, so it's like I wasn't expecting him to be them, but I know that the acting prowess that Jared Leto has, and I was a little disappointed. I was a little disappointed because it was just I don't know what take of the Joker that they wanted him to have. I was like, they made him a gangster, and I'm just like, he never seemed like a gangster to me. Like, I don't mind imbuing, stuff into like the Joker to flesh him out as a person because Heath Ledger's Joker to me is more like a military like Joker.
Hmm.
Um,
Calculating.
but yes, calculating. Like I kind of look at it like that. This Joker was just like it was like they wanted a black man to be him, but they know they couldn't do it, so they were just like, let's make him a gangster.
Okay, so
And it was just
now I'm glad you mentioned this because this is something I specifically brought up with Marvelite, and I brought it up before. If you look at the original Joker from the 1930s and Batman in Detective Comics, he was a gangster. He was Al Capone. He was that iteration of a character to be the bad guy for Gotham. So he was Al Capone essentially, but turned into a character. So they were trying to go back to that. And so, what is a modern gangster? You're not wrong. Like they did go for that. I actually think that's why the Common scene exists because they put Common in there in order to give Leto's character clout. Like it was weird.
I mean, I would have preferred if you would have made him like in this modern time, an old timey Al Capone type of gangster, right?
Now give him the fedora and
Like
everything.
like
Yeah, the pinstripe suit, kind of like the Mark Hamill version. Yeah.
I mean that would have touched on like the Jack Nicholson one too because he had a hat on like that
Yep.
and like this. But even if they wanted to make that a little bit modern, like wardrobe people in movies they work magic, right? So they could have easily gangster up that a little bit, but it seemed like you put him in a category in which he didn't fit, and it just fell flat for me. I was just like, what is he doing? Like I said, but there are moments, just like the whole movie, there are moments where Jared Leto gets to shine a little bit, and I thoroughly enjoy it.
Now, all the little
the
cutscenes, right? The little cutscenes with him and Harley are fantastic because they're right out of the comics, right? And then I there's something that never gets talked about, and then we can absolutely move on from this movie. His crew in this movie is the crew from some of the more modern comics where they wear all the wild masks and I like that they got the ones wearing a Batman mask and the ones wearing that weird like almost like Pac-Man head and the ones wearing a goat and I've seen all of those things in Batman comics in the last 20 years and I was like neat, they're finally fleshing out the weirdness that is Gotham City. Even though the whole movie doesn't take place in Gotham City. What the hell was Jared Leto's Joker doing in Mid City anyway? Anyway, whatever.
Weird, but yeah.
What's your rating, Marvel?
Okay, so adult self watching this film, and I'm trying to give you a rating, not comparing it to recent films. When I looked at this film, I will say, in some cases it is rewatchable. I will watch things over and over again, and if I need something to fill in the background, I this is one of the ones that I consider because it's a little bit, it's enough weird and a bit comic booky, and there are those moments that I do listen out for that I get excited to go back and kind of to catch up to. I do like, I think the underdog character in this thing was Rick Flag because there was an evolution with Rick Flag where he went from hating the villains to seeing them as a team and deciding to work together with them and actually kind of defending them and standing up for them at the end. So in that situation, I have to give it like I want to say a 6, but I have to go with 5. And I because there's just some things that it just don't sit well with me. It's not that I think they're unforgivable. It's not that I blame it for being a Justice League or a theatrical version of Batman v Superman. We're still talking about the extended edition, so there are some more redeeming qualities that you may not have seen in the theaters. So I'd give it a solid 5. I kind of would lead toward a 6 because I will probably still watch this film again in the future just because I feel like it helps complement in some ways James Gunn, if not to say, oh, this one's better, but also to say, okay, I like the characters in this, and then seeing them move on to the next. And I think in the new movie, a couple of the deaths hit harder because of that previous film, which made me it at least
Deaths.
gives appreciation. So
Deaths. I'm kidding, of course. I'm putting
yeah,
up the spoiler alert.
yeah, it'd
So
be terrible. The Suicide Squad where nobody dies.
I
That's
know.
like that's like
The Everybody Lives squad.
that's like the KKK coming up with an idea calling themselves the Diversity Squad.
Yeah. It's like, yeah.
No. Okay. So I'm gonna rate this a 7. Is what I gave it when I first saw it. But in hindsight, with the new movie in mind, it's probably more like a 5. So I'm gonna agree with Mara right there. Kid Me 10. Every superhero or superhero-esque movie would have 10. Like I just ate this crap up. Like it wouldn't have mattered. I'd been like, plot. What's a plot? I don't care. I would have been like, cute girl, maniacs, monsters, demons, magic. Let's do it. It wouldn't have mattered. So basically, from now on, just assume if it's a comic book movie, my kid self's gonna give it a 10.
Kids.
Yeah.
Oh, there might be a few exceptions, but
Oh, can I just say real quick, the unrated version of this movie, the 2016 Suicide Squad. That one I do watch.
yeah, that's the one we were
sometimes.
watching. Yeah, absolutely. Same thing with
I do
BVS.
watch that one.
It's just I can't watch the non-extended. They're just
I
not good.
I literally watch bits and pieces from the movie, but I have to like literally my spirit has to call out to watch Batman versus Superman.
You have to feel
Well,
like
yeah,
hearing
it's
Martha,
it's
Martha.
It's on one of those days where you have to self-loathe yourself, like
I have to
Martha.
I have to literally get like something washed over me for me to watch that. And I only watch certain parts. Like I love the introduction of like Wonder Woman, which that's a whole different.
Do 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 do. She's got the best soundtrack in the entire series.
The best theme song.
Yep.
Like my gosh, but there are bits and pieces, but the unedited version of or unrated version of Suicide Squad is the only one I kind of touch.
Are we ever going to talk about how they totally did Jimmy Olsen dirty in that movie? Anyway, sorry.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
I work for the CIA. Okay, Snyder. Anyway, we're moving on. We're going to move from Snyderverse over to the new James Gunn DC universe. And we were going to also talk about another Suicide Squad movie. And if we have time, if we feel like we want to here at the end of the evening, we can. But
we might get to it.
We might, but I highly doubt it because nom nom. But anyway.
Well, we'll say this. It was better than the 2016 Suicide Squad.
And it is worth watching. It is worth watching. All the animated movies are worth watching except for the death of Superman. That thing is a giant turd. So
and the only thing I can say is the ending of the film, how the cartoon ends. It was definitely a just dessert for Amanda Waller. I appreciated that. I needed, after watching the James Gunn Suicide Squad, I needed to see somebody mess with her again. So that was nice.
She is one of the greatest superhero villains, or one of the best comic book villains of all time. Like nobody ever puts her on the list, but I'm sorry, she deserves to be on the list. She is the oh, you don't watch Harry Potter, never mind. So
I know enough people to get
Umbridge. She's the Umbridge of the DC universe. So
okay, actually, I don't get that reference. So there's that.
But Lala gets
wait.
Pink
is
jacket.
Is that wait?
Pink jacket.
Okay.
Takes over the school.
Okay.
Total nightmare.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I've heard enough about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
can you really like a person named Umbridge? I mean, let's face it.
I don't think you can.
Like the name, like you hear that name, regardless of what the property is, and you hear Umbridge, you're like, oh, he's a jerk.
Yeah. No, that's probably why they picked that name. So moving on, I'm gonna pull up the poster wall here. So we are going to be talking about James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, and of course, this is an interesting film because James Gunn was not supposed to be directing a DC movie, and yet here we are because of somebody at Marvel sticking their foot in their mouth and saying stupid crap about. We already kind of went over why this happened, Lala.
We got to listen to all right idiots,
right? We were talking about how he was a Trauma director, Trauma Studios. And they were edgy and, counterculture. And so that part of what they wanted was for you to be counterculture. And yet they're going to look back on his career like, how dare this guy have a weird counterculture background? And now he's working for Disney, the most like straight and narrow of all the properties. I don't know. it got
Very,
ridiculous. So
very straight and narrow. They like to cover up their own little dark, dirty past.
agreed. But they
Agreed.
like to appear as straight and
Yeah.
narrow as much as possible.
And of course, Disney has not learned its lesson. It has not learned its lesson at all because we're still living with a studio that is not doing right by its actresses and actors,
Yep.
and they're willing to exclude a staple character from the Pirates franchise because of an argument, or because of like the accusations that have not been substantiated and are now showing in.
He won the appeal. He won.
What's that? Yeah,
Yeah, he
won
did
that.
win.
He won that.
So
He won a part of the case.
I'm just give him his job back. He won. He won.
It was good to see him win after he lost in the UK because it was a big deal that he lost there. So
And that was more of a
right,
against the
Dolores.
newspaper. It wasn't her.
No,
Yeah.
agreed. Back on track because we could talk about the TMZ side of all of this for far too long.
Oh my goodness.
So we start out with an advertising campaign that shows us 16 characters, right? And here's spoilers from here on out, guys. I'm sorry, just the rest of the show. If you haven't seen the Suicide Squad, I would bail. I don't want
Get
you to
out
bail.
from under the rock that you're living in and watch it.
Right. So we were advertised
Listen,
to
you
get,
and start watching it.
we were advertised to get 16 characters or so. It was like 12 to 16 characters, a bunch, right? And I think it's hilarious that this advertisement approach to get us all sucked into this idea of a huge squad. But if you look at the poster, it's pretty blatant about what they're trying to tell you. Like it's right there.
They're dying to save the world.
Well, and the characters that they show you on the poster are not the ones in the beginning scene. So it's pretty funny. What did you guys think of that opening sequence of the new Suicide Squad movie?
Go, Lala.
I loved it because it was like it made you feel like, oh, okay, you about to give us 2016 Suicide Squad, and then you pretty much killed everybody. You pretty much killed everybody. And I think it was a way of like watching the 2016 out of your mouth and being like,
that's a good way to put it.
Oh my goodness, yes.
This is something new. Like this is because I'll be honest, it still gave me the feeling of the old one. Like it's still it was like, oh, this is what the old one tried to do.
Right.
Oh, this is what the first tried to do, like that type of.
Yeah. It was like, screw this. We're doing our own thing.
Exactly. And I like that. And I also like that they I don't know if I should talk about what I don't like right now because you don't answer the question, but welcome back, Muncie. We are doing the Suicide Squad, and it's spoilers, bro.
He's seen it. He's seen it.
Oh, get it? Okay, I wasn't sure. I just want to.
He actually watched it.
Can you put up the sign? Can you put up the sign?
Yep,
We're not doing this, brother.
Yep. Oh, there we go. Spoilers up.
Okay.
But no, I like the opening. I like that they like, because to me it fell in line with what they were trying to do with the movie, but it also fell in line with who Waller is as a character.
Right.
That she went in like a B team for the 18. Like you can't pick a better Amanda Waller for me than Viola Davis. Like,
or that move. That move of setting up the guy she didn't want to deal with anymore. Like, that's who that team was. She was tired of their lip, or she knew they were worthless, or whatever their reasons, but she set all these fools up for that.
Yeah. And that's just her to a T. Like, she's playing chess, everybody's playing checkers.
The bird.
And no, that part killed me when he killed.
Oh yeah, the bird with the ball.
But the bird gets
the moment the bird landed in the corner, I was like, he's about to. I just knew he was going to kill that bird.
But the birds get their vengeance. Like, I love the moment later when the bird lands on his head, starts eating his brains. I loved that part. So, okay, real quick, because this is leading me into something. My brother-in-law watched this movie, and he used to be on the show with me. He was the Wicks to my bits. And that sounded really bad. So...
I'm like a show.
That sounded so bad. Anyway, he was...
it was a close family.
He was Monkish Wick, who was a host on the show. And he's a very cynical guy, like really, really cynical. And I said, did you watch the movie? And he said, I just sat down to watch it. I'm about 20 minutes in. I said, can I call you so I can kind of just, listen along and see what you think? And I called him, and he just sat there and scoffed and scoffed and scoffed at everything. And he got to the 20-minute mark, before the Waller reveal, like the B and A team thing. And he was just like, this is so stupid. I can't watch this. And I was like, dude, you you got to at least let the cold open finish. You can't like. But as soon as he saw the blood in the water and it said Warner Brothers, he was like, "This is so stupid." I'm like, "Did you ever read a comic book? Because I know you're a comic book person, and this is exactly the way that they spread the words out in comic books. Exactly. Like James Gunn took a comic book and live actioned the crap out of that stuff. I've never seen anything like it. This is the first comic book
I
movie we've ever
loved
gotten. Ever.
I loved how they used the environment to just progress the storyline,
Yes.
to let you know what was happening next. Like from
Yes.
the rooftop to the button on the elevator, like everything just set everything up
Yeah.
for the next
And
spot.
no, you take it in issues. So every time one of those spread or one of those splashes happens, that's a comic issue, and you can move to the next issue. And each one would be a scene, what we would call a scene in a movie, obviously, or even
Right.
if you're on a DVD, you can go to the titles or whatever. But that's how he broke it up. It's you could take this in little chunks, and it's perfect. And each has its own little
Yep.
wrap at the end, almost like a TV show. I don't know. Gunn is he's brilliant. He's done like 6
Yeah.
movies ever, but he deserves more clout than a 6 movie guy. Anyway, I'm done. I really wanted to talk about that.
Now, and if
This
you
is
think
why
about
I
this,
love you,
because
I was about to bring that up actually, but I was like, we'll get the next question, so I'm not going to say anything. And then you
Yep.
turned and you brought it up because that was one of my favorite things about the movie was that he would use the environment to like leave a message or write something or like the coolest one was when they was like walking on the beach and it said now
Now,
the
yes,
rain now.
that was my
Now
favorite. I loved that.
that was so good. I was like, and I like the one where it was like the roof and it said Jotunheim and it was like broken into pieces and then when they
and
moved you could
when
see
it shifted, it made the
like
words and they
shifted.
shifted
Yep.
away.
Yep.
I
It
did
was
like
so I was
the
like,
fire with the highway when a car drove by and it said Harley instead. That was clever. Like,
yeah,
but the environment
Yeah.
moved with everything. It was so
yeah,
good.
Yes.
yeah. That
This was as comic booky as it can get. So anybody who didn't like it, I'm like, then you don't understand comic books as a whole. You don't understand
Well,
that there
yeah,
should be humor, but there should be moments of like, whoa, because I laughed and I cried during this movie.
yeah. And I think that's the thing. I think what we have to realize when we hear, and this is also progressing with, like, if you listen to, like, if you go on Twitter right now and you look at some people that are hating on this movie, they're individuals that are angry because a certain director is not getting their due acknowledgement because James Gunn is now getting credit for all of this, and they forget that these are comic book based movies. These are off of these come from a genre that specifically explains, like, how it's supposed to be looked at and how it's digested. And I'm not saying that people that are fans of the comic book movies only are not true fans. I'm not gatekeeping, but it's important for people to realize that what you're necessarily hating about this film is not the end all be all when it comes to what these films are about, because as we have seen with the next iteration of the MCU, these writers and these directors and these producers are willing to take the risks to get closer to the comic books.
Right.
And I think a lot of people are not going to like that.
No, I don't think they are. I think they're going to get frustrated when either a character they like dies. Captain Boomerang, as was mentioned in the chat there.
Yeah.
Death in a character is as important as change. Characters dying, to me, moves the story along, and not every character can live forever. And when you're watching a movie called Suicide Squad, people have to die.
Yeah.
So that was just because they weren't going to get Nathan Fillion to stick around, and nobody wants to watch TDK for real. Not me. I don't want to watch that character in a story.
he was like TDK is a respectable kid. I was like yes.
I loved that he was ineffective. He was so ineffective.
And you saw, like, when they saw what he did, because he didn't want to tell them what he was,
Right.
what his TDK stood for. And then when it comes out, he's just slapping the guys and they're just shooting him up. It's like, come on.
It was like an annoyance too. They were kind of like, dude, could you knock that
Mm.
off? Could you stop? This is really, that's what the Corto Maltese army looked like they were thinking. Like, knock it off.
And be aware that if there's anything that's come out of this thing for Nathan Fillion in his hometown, there have been a group of fans that have been trying to do a petition to have the Nathan Fillion Civilian Pavilion. And because of this, and James Gunn found out about it, they've been going on social media with all of the cast reacting to this petition, and the town is actually considering it now.
They need
That
to.
we may end up, because of this movie, we may end up having, and I don't know where his hometown is specifically, the Nathan Fillion Civilian Pavilion, which I think is just beautiful.
I think he's probably Canadian just because I like him so much, but that's just me. I like Canadian actors. I don't know what that is.
And then Mongol. Like, can we just talk about Mongol for a second? Like, she attacks a helicopter and just burns up.
I
Yeah.
I think that okay, so I think Waller is such a genius that she knew this is exactly how it would go down. That's how much I think Waller is on point.
Yes.
The only thing I think Waller didn't see coming in this entire movie was the golf club. And even then, she might have expected it to some degree.
You're hilarious. You are. That was funny.
But
She
you
didn't see that coming.
I mean, she
Very.
didn't, but you know what I mean? Like the only thing she didn't see coming was her team turning against her. Because why would they dare? Why would they, you know?
Yeah.
That, and she didn't see that he had a rat phobia.
Okay, so I think she knew he had a rap phobia.
I don't think she knew. 'Cause he
She's
didn't
as much of a
complete-
jerk as she could be. She could have known.
Exactly, because think about it. He said it. He was like, "Why would I tell people my liabilities? Like, why would I don't think she knew."
I think
And I
she likes
love
to
it.
play off like she doesn't know. That's just me. I mean, I'm telling you.
I don't
So
know.
I actually think Rick Flag and Harley Quinn ended up on that beach on purpose.
I think she was trying to usher in a new Suicide Squad. So she was like, "Let me get rid of the old one and some people that I don't particularly care for, you know, in one fell swoop." While the team
Well,
that I want,
she knew it would be a
you know.
bloodbath. She knew it.
Yeah, because I feel like she can read everybody's psychological like background, and she knows that in this moment, Harley was gonna fly off the rail. She knew this. You know, she knew that these things were gonna happen, like
Right.
domino effects.
I love
then-
when she was like, "Oh yeah, this
Well,
is
the
this
reason
is a
why-
dead situation. You guys are screwed." Harley's like, "All right," and she pulls out her rocket launcher. I was like, "All right, that's Harley. That's."
Well, that was the thing. Like when I first watched it, when I'm first seeing what's going on, I'm like, Waller sent them into an impossible task, and then all of a sudden, like the B team, or well, I guess it's the A team, or whichever one, the one that she intended to actually succeed, they're like, "Why is there nobody?" And she's like, "I set up a diversion." I'm like, "You jerk! You're such a jerk! You just sacrificed like a United States military hero and a bunch of individuals that had saved the world once before." And you're just going to let them all die. And I mean, the fact that she was just willing to blow people up just because, Savant was just having like a horrible like reaction and freaked out and was just swimming away. He wasn't doing anything other than swimming away. They could have brought him back, but she just blew him up anyway.
Yeah, I think she wanted to. Yeah, she wanted to get rid of him.
Yeah.
So I think that the whole Flag and Harley thing, I think Harley was the wild card. She didn't care if she lived or died. If she lives, she still gets to have Harley Quinn as a person on her Suicide Squad. If she dies, she's gone. Good. So that's for me. That's me and Waller with Harley. But with Flag, I think she put him there knowing he'd make it. She knew that he would be found by the rebels. She knew. I don't know how Waller knows these things, but she knew. And then she was able to actually take out the rebels, which benefits the United States in a long-term thing, by having the greatest moment and the epiphany for me in the movie where we realize that our heroes are really not heroes even a little bit.
Yeah.
Like they literally show off kill dozens of good guys.
Of freedom fighters.
Of freedom fighters, of the good guys.
No, that was
Sorry.
everybody's face. I didn't see nobody. I didn't see anybody. And then
And he,
King Shark
he
just
coughs up
spits up like
The
the
like the
necklace.
ring. I was just like, oh gosh. I was like, I like King Shark
Oh, dude.
because
Oh yeah.
I like what they did with him in like the Flash, right? They made him like stupid monsters, right? Which I enjoy that. And then you have the Harley Quinn series, which Ron Funches just brings that character to life in a way that you didn't expect him to. And then this one to have Sylvester Stallone as
Yes.
the voice, perfection.
He was born to be King Shark. He was born to be King
Okay,
Shark.
do you guys? Okay, so you got to hear this. You got to hear this. So I'm watching the movie.
Guy that's in the movie, his body double is the guy that's at the computer.
I think
The-
Sean
the-
Gunn
the
plays
third-
his body double. Sean Gunn should be the body that.
No, Sean Gunn plays Weasel.
Oh, that's right.
He did
that's
Weasel,
right.
and he had his little cameo in the prison.
He played Calendar Man.
He played he played the guy in the prison, and he played Weasel. I knew he was Weasel when he at the end scene where he like spits up the water and he runs away, and I was like, I bet money that's Sean Gunn, and I looked it
Because
up
of
and
the
it's
way
Sean.
he runs.
The way he runs. It's I was like it can only be Sean Gunn, and it was. But the guy who plays the body double for King Shark is the guy that's in the office, the computer guy in the office with Waller with the glasses.
Oh, really?
He's the body double.
I liked her crew, by the way. Her crew was great. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's go with King Shark for a minute. So when I watched this movie, I knew Stallone was in it, right? I'm sitting there watching it, and I'm like, okay, when's he going to show up? And I never, because I don't do a lot of preview stuff. You know me. I tend to try to walk as blind into these things as I could. So I never caught that King Shark and Stallone were the same person. So I literally watched this whole film going, when's he going to show up? When's he going to show up? When's he going to show up? And of course, I get to the credits and I go, oh, that's why. I now have a Sly Stallone role I like, because I'm not a huge Sly Stallone guy, but I love me some King Shark. King Shark, I went and made a TikTok about it. If you guys haven't watched my TikTok about King Shark, I have a love note to King Shark on TikTok. TikTok?
Okay. I feel like we're gonna have like a revitalization of the Baby Shark song.
That was the other song I chose. It was either Baby Shark or the I Love You. I couldn't decide, but I really wanted to do the Baby Shark one. And yes, Calendar Man was a dick.
Yeah.
And the only thing that said he was a calendar man was that he had every month tattooed on his forehead. Anyway, my brother hated that part too.
So when I heard King Shark's voice, I knew it was Stallone. And in fact, I tried not to look at the roster of the actors for the film. And so when I heard Stallone's voice come out of, was it Manawe? I freaked out because I'm like, that voice makes perfect sense, because it sounds like, I've always thought of Stallone like it's like okay, like he was perfect in Rocky, because I feel like his voice was like great for like a brain damaged boxer. And then you have King Shark, which is hilarious. And when he puts his hand up and when he said hand, I was like, oh my goodness, I love this character so much.
Love that he just nods too. He's just like, I got that right. He looks at everybody like, yeah, recognize. He did. Although I did like Ratcatchers too. Like, what is that? The overhead projector. I felt very old.
Yeah, and the whole thing when she's like, I'm not really good in the mornings, and then he says millennials.
I know. Now, Ratcatcher 2 is the unsung hero, obviously, of the film, but I absolutely love this actress. Like, she won my heart so quickly. The lines with her and King Shark and her relationship with him. I'm sorry, they don't even really call him King Shark. It's Nanawe.
Manawe, yeah.
And which both are accurate, but still, I love Ratcatcher 2 and that whole thing. And that whole thing is so tender. And you didn't expect this tender thing to be built into this horrific gore fest, because that's what this movie is. It's a gore fest. It's almost like, it's not torture porn. It's gore porn, really. Yeah. And it's, and then they put this little morsel of that's Gunn for you, though, because he did the same thing with Super. There's a little morsel of like, oh, that's tender. Why'd you make me feel that? That's gross.
And it was nice to see the little cameo of Taika Waititi in there as well.
Yes. There was another cameo in the Gentleman's Club as well.
McClintock. Yep.
Oh, I was not paying attention to any of that.
She was one of the dancers.
One of the dancers was Mantis. Yeah.
Oh, I saw that. I saw him. I was like,
yep.
But that's it. That was the one cameo.
There are certain actors I gotta get in good with, so that they just keep putting me in their movies. And now I'm noticing that James Gunn is one of those people.
Yeah, if you can get into a James Gunn film, a Kevin Smith film, or any of those, you're good. You're gonna likely be in them forever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Put me in, man. Put me in.
You might die in the first 5 minutes, but you will be in one.
I would take dying in every James Gunn film in the first 5 minutes.
Oh, absolutely.
I would be the dude in the beginning. Like, let me get hit by a bus. Let me be the fat guy that can't outrun the zombie. Like, I'll be that guy. Like, this is a solicitation for the three of us to be in your next film, Mr. Gunn.
Exactly. In the chat, all the movie things said the relationship between Ratcatcher 2 and Bloodsport is so good. I feel like that's what they were trying to do in the first one with Harley Quinn and Deadshot, and it just didn't hit the same way. And I think it was because like they were like kind of equals at a point, and Ratcatcher 2 was like so young that she was looking for like a father figure, and he is a father looking for like that softness that he needed for a daughter. So like it just hits better for
I'm
me
with
in
you.
that sense. Because he literally would like protected her, like she protected him. Like when she was calling all the rats and he freaked out, and she put her arm over him. I was like, oh,
I
this
love
is
that.
so good. It's
Now,
so
the
good.
sequence between him and his daughter, I loved Idris Elba in that moment because and I don't normally drop a lot of f bombs on this show, but just the way that he goes "fuck you," like I was like, holy crap, he really just wants her to go away. Like you could feel
Yeah.
like, get out of here, kid. I don't want you anywhere near me. And that dude can
Well,
act his brains out. Like,
I was
sorry,
I was
well, that was what
surprised
was
that
in.
Margaret did that, but I was proud of her for that scene.
she held
She
her
stepped
own
up.
against Idris Elba. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
Well,
stepped
what
up.
was it? What was interesting with that with the whole between Ratcatcher 2 and Bloodsport, and it was touched on a little bit with Bloodsport, how the fact that his dad basically was
Yeah,
just, was like sadistic with him. And so the only way that he could be a loving father was to push his daughter as far away as possible.
Right.
And because he felt like there was no redeeming quality in him because there was no redeeming quality in his father. And then with Ratcatcher, in Ratcatcher 2, you have this idea that she tells her story. Her father had vices that made him a terrible dad, but at the same time he at least still showed love to her and was like, and bestowed something on her. It was like, even when you're even as a terrible parent, like maybe you were not fit to be a parent, and the world is you happen to be a parent and you don't know what you're doing, and you're just awful. You can still instill something good. And I just think that was like a really nice like pull that they gave him, because he learned from Ratcatcher 2 that he still has something to offer her. And to see his daughter actually like look at him on television and see him as she going like, that's my dad, like
she
that
can
was the
be.
first moment that she probably was proud of him.
Is
Yeah,
that not
definitely.
the most overused trope, though?
Yes,
Of
it is.
course,
It is.
That's my
doesn't mean we don't
dad.
like it.
I know we like it, and it didn't bother me in this movie, but it's weird because the way that somebody can use an old trope that bugs me in a way that doesn't bug me is clever. Because normally I would just scream at that trope. I'd be like, "Get that crap
Well, I
out of
think it's
here!"
also playing. I think the whole thing was James Gunn was not just playing on comic book movies; he was playing on the tropes,
Right.
and that's what he does best.
He
So
does because he's like us. He's seen enough movies and been a part of watching enough of them, and a fan himself, that he can break them down in a way that a fan would like. And when people don't like them, either they're too cynical or they can't let go. Well, I guess that's kind of the same thing. Or they're not willing to dive that deep, I guess, into the weirdness that is meta and or you guys know what I'm saying. So there's a
yeah,
couple of things when I, I didn't like the open sequence as much, and I was worried, like you were saying, Lala, about it being much like the 2016 one, and I was like, oh god, here we go again. But when the rat waved to Bloodsport, I was like, okay, this movie's got me now. Like that's all I needed. The rat waved, and he's like, I'm not shanking that rat's hand. Like I'm like, this is absolutely amazing.
at
Um,
the end when he's petting the rat, did you not get Guardians of the Galaxy vibes?
a little bit, and I do like that he cringed but still did it. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and it was all slow. Yeah.
Um, we have not mentioned Peacemaker once, which really baffles me considering.
Well,
Um,
yeah.
and I have to say, I think a good introduction would be the way that the relationship between him and Bloodsport, and the moment when he shoots over his shoulder and shoots the guy with a dart, and Bloodsport goes non-lethal, and he talks about how it's an explosive bullet, and the guy blows it, blows up, and Bloodsport goes, nobody likes to show off, and then of course Peacemaker goes, yeah, unless what they're showing off is dope as fuck. And then, of course, Bloodsport goes, oh, shit, that's true. I loved that. This character that I would normally not see ever admit to being wrong, because you just feel like Bloodsport's not that kind of guy. He did, and I loved it. It was humility you don't normally see. I'm going to leave it at that. Go ahead. What do you guys think about Peacemaker?
Hey, I don't particularly care for John Cena as an actor. Um, but when people put him in roles that fits him, because like I don't really see him going to go get like acting training or nothing like that. And I could be
Mm.
wrong, like I could be wrong. But I feel like when they put him in work in roles that shows off like his natural abilities, he always shines to me. So like he has to keep doing the he has to keep doing like the action star thing, because I don't need him to try to be like sentimental and sweet and stuff like that. Because to me, it just won't hit. He has moments in between here where he says things, but yeah, I agree with all the movie things. Gunn knew how to work with him, so I think he has to have a really good director to bring out to be able to speak to him in a way that can bring it out for him. I actually like Peacemaker because again, like I was seeing a lot of similarities between this one and the 2016 one because Peacemaker and Bloodshot was Flag and Deadshot in the first one. So like that like juxtaposition. So like, but again, it was just done better. Even though I didn't mind Flag and Deadshot, but this one was just done better because I don't need them to be buddies at the end.
No.
Right? I wanted them fight. I wanted to see them kind of like go at it so we can see first and foremost like who is like the best because essentially you put two of the same people on one team. There were bound to be like stripes. There was bound to be like butting heads. So let's see who's better. Even though I really wish the fight between him and Flag would have been him and Bloodshot, but it's 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 fine. That is I like that Flag got some good stuff in. I was sad when Flag died. But Peacemaker was interesting to say the least. And you guys know he's getting a TV show, right?
Right. Oh yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Marvelite, what do you got on Peacemaker?
So I forgot about him having a TV like a series, and so I was excited when I thought he died, and because I just thought he was a horrible individual in the film, but that doesn't mean I didn't like John Cena's portrayal of him. I think if anybody was going to play a guy who acted like he was doing everything for liberty, but it was really just an excuse to kill everything, have an excuse to kill things. It also it made me so mad that Waller would trust him to make sure to clean up stuff, and to make sure that everything was destroyed because she knew he was the only one on the team that didn't have a moral compass enough to basically, do what she wanted them to do.
Well, his compass aligned with her needs.
Right, exactly. Now I will say though, this is not the only film that I've liked John Cena in, and it's hard to say that, but there was one other film that I liked him in, and it's kind of like, game me whatever, but it's the movie 12 Rounds back in 2009. I did like that film.
Okay.
And if you haven't seen it, it is worth a watch. It's more of, him having to do all of these things, and he's basically like, he's a fireman that because of him, this guy gets, put in prison. And so the guy plays a game, he wants to do 12 rounds of this game, basically to, risk his wife's life. And the whole reason why they're doing this is because, the guy's trying to rob the city or whatever. And everything that John Cena does in the film actually leads to one extra step. It's kind of like the whole thing with Ethan Hawke with the Mustang. What is that called?
You mean the one with Selena Gomez?
Yeah, basically, it's kind of that concept, but I thought it was done pretty well.
I could not finish that movie. That movie was so bad. I could not finish that movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which one? The Ethan Hawke?
The one with Ethan Hawke, and yeah, I was just like,
okay,
this is so terrible.
Yeah, so I did like that one, but at the same time, but honestly, I think it worked because I think of the play between Bloodsport and Peacemaker.
Mm-hmm.
That dynamic between the two of them, and I love the fact that like when Bloodsport is talking, he's like we're the same thing. Why do we have to, why are you, we have the same skill set? And he's like, yeah, but I do it doper. It's like
that's what Bloodsport needed though. He needed somebody to make him feel inferior so that he would up his game to his best level. He has an ego,
right?
And he needed it to be flexed. That's the way I see Bloodsport. His weapons alone tell me he has an ego. The fact that the guy goes from the little tiny gun to the biggest Harken thing that turns into though his weapons are phenomenal. It's one of my favorite versions of weapons.
Just pulling stuff off himself.
Yeah.
And
but it was swords, and it was like if you put them together, you get another weapon. I'm like, dude, can you make a game where that's like all the weapons, and I get that? Like that's dope. Just give me a game where I'm Bloodsport. I would love it.
So I liked it.
Can I say though, I this is like very twofold, maybe, but I enjoyed the treatment of Harley Quinn in this film.
Yeah, we were talking about that actually.
I thoroughly enjoyed the treatment.
Where she was able to be sexual without being sexualized.
Yes.
Right, like she wasn't like changing her clothes in front of a whole bunch of people.
Right.
Like she,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
And we talked about
it's
that, how it goes back to like maybe that's the way she thought Joker wanted her to be. So even though that's not the way the film set it up, it's just the way it plays out now with the 3 films, where that's the way that the misogyny and the Jokerhood and the like Harley trying to be somebody else. And then in Birds of Prey, we see her drop that and become herself. And then, of course, the continuation of that in this film.
Well, it
and
was
like
Birds of Prey. She was struggling with
decided,
that. She was trying to get herself.
Right.
Blooded Gun decided to like bring over elements from Birds of Prey into this. So like when she's like shooting people in the flowers and the flowers behind her and things like that, like it's like it was just nice to be like, I understand you did this movie, and these are the elements that you had for Harley in your movie. So I'm going to bring those qualities over here and just add my little touch to it, and it was just nice. And I also like Ratcatcher. I like that she was like the young one of the group, like the biggest heart of the group, and she was the one that got King Shark not to eat everybody because that's exactly what he wanted to do.
I love his answer. No.
So
It's a question.
That might be the cutest thing to hear Sylvester Stallone saying "num num."
Num num. Hungry.
That's the
Add the
cutest.
same energy though. Add the same energy when
Right?
Captain America goes smash, and it's
Exactly.
like
Like num num. It's so great to me. I'm just like, this is the cutest thing in the world. And Sylvester Stallone is this like giant of a man.
I don't.
That span this room, and he's saying "num num" in a Suicide Squad film, which is great.
I know it. I know. He did steal my heart. Him and the little rat. And I don't mean Ratcatcher 2. I'm talking about what was his name? Alexander.
oh
Alexander. No,
yeah, I think it was Alexander.
I think so too. But yeah,
Yeah, he also saved the world in Endgame. If you think about it,
I literally watched this movie and thought to myself, if King Shark dies, I'm going to stop watching James Gunn movies. Like, you cannot kill King Shark. But it should have been a very big clue to us that he couldn't die because of the fact that Bloodsport was shooting him with the like shotgun level of his weapon, and it was just knocking him down. He wasn't actually.
Or they shot him with the machine guns. Like all of them are shooting with the machine guns.
Well, that's when
he just gets back up.
That's when you start to realize he's not gonna die. This was obviously back when he was gonna eat them, but I don't know. It felt like they were gonna try to kill him, especially with the like sucker weird things that they never explain. Hopefully, they will one day. Go ahead, Lala.
Sebastian.
His Sebastian. That's his name. Okay, Sebastian. Good
okay.
call. Good call. So. I have a theory about the scene with the flowers, and I know it's a continuation of a theme that they've already used, but I think that the reason they used so many flowers in that sequence was they had to cut down the violence somewhere. Otherwise, they were going to garner an NC-17 rating because there's so much aggressive violence in this movie and some direct full frontal male nudity as well as a little bit of female nudity. And
Big guy. I was like, whoa.
yeah, I didn't expect that either. And I was like, why are you opening that window in this camp? Is this every morning? Because if maybe you were the one to deserve to get killed, dude, because you don't do that to your fellow like campmates every morning, right? Please don't do that. Anyway, that being said, there were things that could have gotten this pushed, even with a more mild MPA compared to when we were kids. The MPAA was like, whoa. Remember when they couldn't kiss on screen? Like, we've come a long way. So,
well, you had Leave It to Beavers. What was it? I Love Lucy. They had separate beds,
right? And they even had like laws about like absolute, like not written laws, but guidelines. For
Leave
films.
It to Beaver. Leave It to Beaver. There's never a scene in the bathroom because they were never allowed to show the toilet.
I know. And then even on screen, like you can only kiss for so long and a certain type of kiss. So like that's why they get that pressed up against each other crap that we all kind of mimic now, or not mimic but mock. Mm-hmm. But I think those flowers, that scene would have gotten even, because she starts decapitating fools like left and right. And if you just have flowers coming out, much like in Kingsman when everybody's head explodes at the end, they just do the fun, cartoony look. And I think they're trying to get around these NC-17 ratings, because if we got these the way we would want them, I think we would just have a bunch of NC-17 movies. And
yeah, but I also think it was just beautiful the way they did it. They didn't have to have the blood. They had the flowers were perfect.
I do agree. I think it was well done. I think they did a good job of hiding it, but I think that's the reason for it. I'm almost positive.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's just my guess, but I don't know.
There are two things. There are two characters that we have not mentioned that we have to mention because I think they are crucial. Like, well, there's so many, but First of all, Polka Dot Man's mom
Oh yes.
Yeah.
The unsung villain.
was yes, that was my favorite. Like the way they did that was fantastic. And then Milton. We have to mention
Oh,
Milton.
Milton. I love
There's
that Harley got that wrong.
And then she called Bloodsport Milton at the end.
Who's Milton? Anyway. Yeah, no, Polka Dot Man. Though, so as I was writing notes for this movie, I would write very specific things. Like I even wrote some of the quotes out verbatim so that I could get them right. And I got to the Harley scene, where she saves herself, which is fantastic. And we could dissect that whole scene. It's worth doing. But every time I got to Polka Dot Man, I would go Polka Dot Man. And that's all I wrote down because I just didn't know what else to write. That's a weird character and amazing.
And they did a great job with it.
Lala, we couldn't hear you. You were a little quiet there. Say it again.
Oh, I like that they changed his abilities. That it's not really the same as his comic book character. But it was still like weird and great to see. So, yeah.
I did like that he has a interdimensional virus.
Yes. And his mom worked at Star Lab, so that was a nice little call.
Mhm.
That I liked.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody else feel as creeped out as I did when he was dancing with his mom on the dance floor?
I wasn't freaked out until it was the mom in front of him that was like bending over doing that, and I was like, that's when I got messed up. I was like, oh.
Yeah, that.
But when they did the thing where he looked at the Suicide Squad and they were all his mom,
Especially King Shark.
Yeah, that was
King
good.
Shark in the background.
Captain Tommy Love had a good question.
Oh.
Kill Bill was a you think it was worse graphically?
Oh no, I think so. Kill Bill 1 was the more graphic, violent film of the two, I would say, especially with the Crazy 88 scene. And I would say this film is more graphically violent.
oh yeah, when the Nawe like rips that guy in half, just that visceral rip
with the
that
lightning
was
strike.
it was gorgeous.
Dude, I almost got goosebumps.
Yeah.
At a death scene. I don't get goosebumps at death scenes. Okay, maybe sometimes.
All the movie things just said he just read an article where Gunn says Robbie actually performed the foot escape trick while hanging from the ceiling. Honestly, I knew that was her. When I watched it, I was so proud of her because one, it was like a bit of a long shot, and when they did cut, it was still her. I could still see that it was her. I was super proud of her.
Yeah, no,
well,
it was epic.
When they also did the drape acrobats in the first one,
Mhm.
Yeah,
like it kind of set her up that it made perfect sense that she'd be able to do something like that, especially being with the Joker, because like the whole circus clown type thing going.
Well, she is a Harley Quinn,
Yeah,
and she adopted all those aspects. You were saying, Lala, sorry.
Oh no, I'm just saying, I'm just like super proud of her. I love, like, to me that scene was just because I believe it was, did Muncie say this? I think Muncie said this. Yeah, I'll go back up. Muncie said, I was hating her and President Love scene. It felt like 2016 her, and then she shot him, and I was like, oh, there's the character development. So like I love that in this film Gunn expanded her character to the point where, like, because at first I was kind of tired of seeing her. I was just like, all right, this y'all not giving me layers, really. And then Birds of Prey came out, and then you kind of gave me layers. And then this film is here, and it's like more layers, right? Like, you gave me another side of Harley that I've been looking for. I wanted to see the side of Harley that, like, when she's focused, she's a menace to society when she's focused, right? But I feel like she's kind of worse than a Joker at times when she's focused. Because most of the time she's, like, hopping through buildings, singing songs like she was through the president's, like, home, and people kind of second guess her. But when she was faking like she was knocked out, and then she, like, the look, like the Stanley Kubrick, like, look, like the Kubrick stare that she looked up and wrapped her legs around and then pulled the guy up, and he was just hanging there. I was like, that's a Harley movie that I could watch if they had this type of Harley in a film. It was just.
Do you feel like, because I felt like they really kind of put her as an aside in this film, that she was not the focus at all. I would say, without a doubt, it was Ratcatcher 2 and Bloodsport that were the focus of the film. They were our main two
Right.
characters. And Harley was just a fun aside, and almost in some scenes not necessary. Like you didn't even need her in some of these scenes. She's just there, which is interesting. But they're definitely leading her down a road of good so that she can eventually work with Batman, or at least Bat family characters, in fighting crime, because that's obviously where her character goes in the comic book. So they're leading her that way. They definitely gave her this like new purpose, and I love the javelin, like that she had no idea why she had this javelin, but she had to figure it out. This also felt like a giant role-playing session where a bunch of nerds sat around and were like, yeah, we're gonna fight a giant star. Fish.
Starro, my goodness.
That's what the character was.
Starro.
Yes.
Conqueror.
Yes.
I love starfishes. I believe starfish are so beautiful, and that giant starfish with eyeball, Lord.
No, he's perfect.
Well,
My dream.
Did you catch what Starro said at the end right before it died?
Yeah. I just wanted to look at the stars. I was happy floating.
It's like I was just happy, and it was like I felt bad because really, if you think about it, Starro really wasn't the villain. Starro was just, if anything, what was the guy's name? The Doctor Who character, the guy.
The Thinker.
Yeah,
Gaius
he was the
Green.
villain, really, of the story. Yeah,
I disagree. And this is actually something I wanted to get into, because this movie has deeper layers than people are going to give it credit for. This movie is a scathing indictment of the United States. And it's one that goes like at least 3 layers deep on the way that they're talking about it in the film, because they're talking about the double-cross nature of our country, all the meddling we've done in the southern hemisphere, especially in the western southern hemisphere throughout the last 80 years. And it's kind of pointing a finger at all those coups that we did, including the Castro coup, which is still in the news right now. And I don't normally like to get political, but this movie gets a little political. It's hard to ignore. And as I watched it, I was like, okay, so even the soldier, even the veteran that I would relate to on some level, is being betrayed by his own country. And that says something. That's something that's definitely worth looking at in a deeper meaning. And to me, it's just, this goes back to what Marvelite was saying. I noticed that all the movie things mentioned Peacemaker. The idea that Peacemaker is the character of the United States, that he's been given this carte blanche to give peace for all the right reasons, is again another scathing indictment of the way we approach things. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what the movie's saying. Which is,
he's been saying that from the beginning. They just rushed in and killed all the freedom fighters, not realizing that they were freedom fighters.
Right.
Like America just rushes in with carte blanche and does what they want, and then oops,
right,
my bad, and then walks away with not having to fix anything. And then you find, and then I like the juxtaposition of talking about how America set this thing up, but then the same America saved these people. You know what I mean? Like, they betrayed Waller when she was willing to betray everybody.
America really didn't. I mean, if you think about it, America really didn't save anybody. When it comes down to it, America was just trying to mop it up so that they wouldn't get the blame for it.
Well, they created the creature in the first place.
The villins become the heroes, and the government that employs them is the villain. So, yeah.
I'm calling them America, like the Suicide Squad is like the America that like saves.
They're the America, us, the people in the streets. Right.
They're trash. They're trash. I'm talking about, like,
we're talking about government. Yeah. It's like this. Government is a necessary evil. The problem is, when we allow people to be like career politicians and everything else, this is what happens. They find ways to stay in power. And I think that was what kind of, it was an indictment of that. I could see that. I just meant that, like, of a physical in-person villain, I would have thought that Thinker was the in-person villain. Is, of course, you have the, existential, the government being the real problem. And in some cases, I would also say Amanda Waller is the problem as well. She's the villain in the story too.
Well, if she knew, she's absolutely the antagonist of the entire film, which is interesting because it's one of those rare instances where the antagonist throws everybody off the trail to a different quote antagonist, but it's a sub antagonist. And really, we still haven't dealt with the problem at the end of the film. And I'm hoping that we'll have a Suicide Squad film where they take her down and they liberate Task Force X. I hate that term. It's too much.
I love Peter Capaldi because he was Doctor Who. But before that, I've seen him in things that he's a very good actor. I, I was super excited that he was in this film, and I really wanted more from him. I was like super sad
You talking about the
that
guy that played
there
the
wasn't
Thinker?
more. Yeah, Peter Capaldi. Yeah, I was really, he's a phenomenal actor, and they just gave him like, so I'm hoping he comes back somewhere because I feel like they didn't do enough. So,
Did you see all the movie things? He's like, I really love that Harley Quinn threatened him with, if you have personal license plates, you die. Because all the movie things, of course, doesn't make.
listen, in the time of a pandemic, yes, like Miss Marvel just said, in the time of pandemic, if you cough without covering your face, you die. I hardly 100% back her on that. Harley Quinn for president.
No, I love that Flag. I love that Flag though jumps in though and goes, no, none of those last couple of things, no, but that does not give you a right to go around.
Yeah.
I just love that.
Coughing with your face covered. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we talk about? Okay, this is just a weird aside because I'm looking at my notes here, but can we talk about the Peacemaker's finger touch turn in the armored vehicle? Like that whole sequence was them, escaping, and I love the whole idea of the one touch kill, and they all knew they didn't have to communicate because they're all brutal murderers, and they kill all the guys and they escape in the most ridiculous way. But Cena's character, Peacemaker, knows for just if he just turns the wheel with just those fingertips, and you look very closely, he turns the wheel, they slide into the truck perfectly, they roll down the hill, and it's so comic booky. It's not even funny how they just jump out and they're like, okay, this is exactly where we were supposed to meet you. Let's go. I loved that. It's so Fast and the Furious, but done well. It's again, we keep getting these tropes that I hate in other movies, but Gunn does them, and I'm like, good job, dude.
At least the and it's funny though because he's in the next Fast and Furious movie, and it's kind of, at least it didn't take a building down. Let's say that much.
Fair. Well, they did take a building down.
Not with a car though.
Oh, that's true. No, instead they did it with little caricatures of Peacemaker.
They did it with a starfish.
Peacemaker.
I liked the superhero landing, and then the superhero landing, and then the superhero landing, and then the superhero landing. And he just kept falling through the thing, and he ended up in front of Peacemaker and Ratcatcher 2. One of the things I didn't like about this film, and it could just be me just being like, I gotta find something I don't like. All the cut twos, like all the 3 hours ago or 5 hours later, it gave me very Rick and Morty.
But to me, that's very comic booky. They do that all the time in the comic books.
It is, and I understood it when I watched it. I personally don't like it. I just don't like it.
I don't think that the scene with Peacemaker would have hit as hard had we not cut back.
I don't like it that many times. It was throughout the film. It was it was like 3 hours ago. 2 days, 24 hours. It was just so many of those. I think you could have removed a couple of them.
That's fair.
Just few of them.
Let's see if we can find some. I'm going to do this now. I'm going to see if I can find a criticism. I'm struggling.
He's like, maybe not. He's gonna give this a
not enough Weasel.
Yeah.
I do love Flag. I mean, he killed 27 children, but he agreed to do this, so we're gonna let him.
Yeah, we're kind of on good terms now.
What? Because even my wife was like, "Oh, poor Weasel," and I'm like, "He killed 27. Let that freaking guy drown." He said.
Yeah, but the end credits scene, come on.
But I knew he wasn't dead. I just knew he wasn't dead, and then he popped back up and then just skittered away. I was just like, hope he doesn't eat any of the children that's left in Corto Maltese.
Are there any children left after Starro?
I think so. There's people left.
They did show us a couple of kids when Starro was attacking to really give us that thing that 2016 didn't.
Yeah, and then they were celebrating Halloween too, so I'm assuming that some kids. It's just not all adults. Some kids survived.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah,
Now,
the people that didn't run away fast enough, they all died.
Can we talk about the fact that TDK is not dead?
He was just riding on the floor like crazy.
Yeah, the last time we see him, he's shown in critical condition, but we never see him on screen die. And anybody in that movie that didn't die on screen, we have to assume is alive.
Right.
We just see his arms pretty much disintegrate from bullets.
Right. And there is a clip of him when they show the Waller screen where it's all of her bombs. He's got a yellow critical condition symbol, but it doesn't show him as actually dead.
Right.
And there are people who are like, "Oh, TDK's dead." I'm like, "What?"
No, bring him
I'm sorry. When they killed Blackguard, Pete Davidson's character, like right off before he could really show anything, like that was great. That was like because everyone's thinking, okay, well, it's got Pete Davidson, it's gonna be some level of funny. He wasn't in there long enough to even
He
figure.
didn't even get to throw any jokes. He was just an ass.
No, all you have to do was like pull the toilet paper off his Crocs.
I don't blame him.
And I think that was a
Sign
really
me
good.
up.
Yeah, I agree. Again, I would be the Pete Davidson to James Gunn. Like, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, sign me up.
I would even just be an extra on the beach that gets blown. Like, whatever. Just put me in the movie. I'll play a tree. Anyway, the whole point that I'm trying to make here is that when Pete Davidson's face gets blown off, I think you at that moment go, oh, it's that kind of movie. Like, you just know. Like, they went to where Blomkamp movies go in the first 3 minutes, and Blomkamp will do it 2 hours in. Like, anyway.
All the movie things had a good point in the comments there. Said I had one small criticism that the leader of the resistance just kind of accepted that so many of her army were just slaughtered, and that was a little point for me. Like, she was just like they killed so many of her men, and then she's like, "You guys are the ones that can help us," and it was like,
she knew there was a choice. She could either she's a rebel on a mission, and it'd be like Luke. Like, if they killed half the squadron, but they still had to blow up the Death Star, they'd still have to blow up the Death Star. Like, they wouldn't have a choice. That's the way I looked at it. And I get the criticism, I do, because it bothered me for a moment. But then I went, if in the moment, would I just go, well, shit?
But I feel like if you've been fighting this, like they said at the end that, like, it's been 90 years since they have been able to, like, vote the way they need to vote, that I feel like, even though it's messed up that they died, where did they die? Because they got set on fire. It was a game after a while for a Bloodsport Peacemaker. But I feel like she is one of those people that are like hyper focused, tunnel vision, and she was like, I have a mission, and my mission is to set all my people free.
Right.
And this is the life that we like live in. Like they're gonna die. They die kind of messed up, but
Do you agree though that it's possible Waller knew that Peacemaker and him would do that? It's possible she knew. Like.
But she said the same title for both of them. She said the same story. He was like, "Are you shitting me right now? Like, you fucking?" He was like, "Are you fucking?" Like, I feel like she put them on a team together because I feel like she knew she could control Peacemaker.
Right.
And she knew she couldn't control Bloodsport, so she had to put somebody on the team that would challenge him, and then also get her job done.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So.
I think Flag was the liability in this whole thing because he was going to look at the moral, right position, and
why she had a B team to die.
Yeah.
I still think that even if she knew that he'd make it to the end, because again, she had him retrieved intentionally, and I think that retrieval is when she knew that Bloodsport and Peacemaker would wipe out the rebels. But like an added bonus. But I think she knew, or at least suspected, that he was supposed to go with a different team and not go down into the basement to seek out that information. Because although he was sent straight down there, wasn't he? Because Peacemaker came. It's weird. It's a weird one. The plot falls a little apart there with Flag. A little bit.
No, Flag got mad. Like, Flag was like, Flag always thinks, even though it be some shady stuff they're doing, he's like, I'm doing it for the United States. And when he figured out that it was the United States that did this, he was like, oh, it's time for me to, like, now I have to, like, step and do something. So I don't know. That didn't really bother me. That didn't seem to be disjointed to me at all.
No, what's disjointed?
I think she knew Flag was going to do that.
But why would, almost like she knew he wouldn't, he'd have to be killed. It's almost like she'd have to know it all. Well, it's Waller.
Well, the whole thing was,
I mean,
it wasn't, his existence wasn't beneficial. It was what he could do to get to that point. That he was an extra tool in her arsenal until she knew she needed to wipe him out. Because if he would have been dead beforehand, she would have been okay with it. But because he was beneficial and she sent them to retrieve him, she knew that he would be helpful to get the mission done. But that didn't mean that he was going to survive out. He wasn't going to survive it regardless.
What
like
all the movie things
die.
What all the movie things says makes sense.
Flag said that he said it. That's what I'm saying. But I'm sick of all the movie things said that maybe Peacemaker was an insurance policy, and that's what Flag said. Flag was like that. It's just like Waller to have like a backup plan, essentially. Just in case something didn't go the way that she expected it to go.
Like if Flag maybe hadn't asked any questions about this, or that conversation had not happened, Flag would have just finished it. He would have broken it. But since he started asking questions, she had a contingency, and
Yeah.
that kind of makes sense. But
But
I'm still
yeah.
trying to reconcile getting him on that beach and why she put him on that beach in the first place. Because
Honestly, I think she was going to be done with him because she put him, or at least she made it. She was going to feel like he would have made it through, at least maybe, and everybody else would have died. But I still feel like she wanted to kind of like kill him too. I feel like that whole team was pawns to die, so that the other team could. I don't think she cared, but because he survived, she was like, "Go grab him real quick," because he made it.
so okay,
You
so
know,
if he's still working for her, that means that Moon is still under her control in one way or another. Because why would he continue to work for her without that betrayal, without that blackmail? Because that's the only reason people work for her is because they're being blackmailed. So she either has something on him or he agreed to work with her, which I think is a little odd that it's not discussed. Everybody else makes sense, but I can see why she would choose Bloodsport over him at this point. Younger blood, well, maybe not younger, but fresher blood, maybe. I don't know. It's an interesting part of the film that maybe needs a rewatch. To
I mean, for me,
see.
I just assumed that he's working with her solely for the fact that he thinks her ends justify the means, right? Because I'm pretty sure the whole time he's been on team, he hasn't happened to kill like innocent people. That he's probably been actually working for the United States and doing like really good things. And then this is just a moment where he's like, "Oh, okay, the United States is an issue. Oh, okay, we have to tell everybody." Like I think he felt like he was on the right side of the flag until pun intended, he was on the right side of the flag until he wasn't. So I'm learning from Smitty these little jokes, trying to figure it out.
I'm a pun person. It's bad. Okay, so Muncie says she put him on the team because he was a liability. She retrieved him because she couldn't let him get away, and she probably planned to kill him after. And of course, he died in the mission, which is good. Bloodsport was easier to manipulate. His daughter made him a very easy pawn, and puns are life. I agree. Let's see. We are at 9:00. Holy crap, we went a little longer than I expected. Not like we have to get off of here unless people want to, but is there anything else that we haven't touched on? Because we've kind of picked this movie apart.
Yeah, I think we've kind of gone through a lot of it.
I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, Polka Dots Man's powers were dope, but we covered that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
Moment of silence for Milton, of course.
Oh, Milton. We never did talk about Milton. We didn't actually talk about him. So, Milton was one of those unsung heroes, and he's us, obviously, in this film.
Yeah.
I have to admit, Gunn's lighting in that scene when he pulls up to pick them up was so amazing because they were using just flashlights and really low interior lighting, and yet everything was beautifully lit. I'm really shocked when they're able to do those kinds of things in such low lighting. Maybe all the movie things can explain to me how they did that scene, because it really stuck out to me as like, wow, how can I see him? It's dark. Why did the driver go with them? Because it was the right thing to do. I don't know.
Honestly,
he's like the Darkender of the Suicide Squad.
Honestly, I was thinking he was a Peter. He's the Peter. Suicide Squad.
I would agree. It would probably be better on set. Plus, you'd have the exposure and other various things to worry about. So, no doubt. Why did he go with? So, this is a good question. I think the reason he went with is for the joke, because they got 2 solid jokes out of him. Right. So they got the joke of his death, and then they got the Harley joke, the like cheap joke at the end. That's why. He was a plot point.
And the fact that he went to go get a gun and Rick took it from him, like, no.
I don't think I caught it. But Polka Dot Man says he had a feeling for Milton, and did I? No, he did. He was like, I liked him from the beginning, but I just didn't want to say anything because of like the way it felt. Polka Dot Man probably was like a regular person, but put in an extraordinary situation. Like, I don't think he would have been as effed up about his mom had his mom not experimented on him. He would have been like you or me. But when your mom injects you with interdimensional viruses, you tend to go a little wacky, especially when you have to expel your dots twice a day. What was that like? And how does he expel his dots? We never got into that. Like, I know he can point them out his fingers, but it didn't seem like in the bushes. That's
he really shoots them in the ground.
I think he was like pooping them out, honestly. I think that's the fastest way to evacuate them.
because he fell forward. I thought he threw up.
You think he was throwing him up? Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
I do think they were coming out of somewhere other than his fingertips.
Once he said, I don't think I caught it, but did Polka Dot Man say he had feelings for Milton, or did I read that wrong? I think he said he liked him.
He
not
did.
like
No,
he
he
had
said,
feelings.
I liked him from the beginning. He said.
Yeah, he said he liked him from the beginning.
It's like
That's crazy because we don't even hear Milton.
You don't what?
You hear Milton talk. It's like, what did you like? I don't know. Like, was he good conversation with us? Like,
he picked us up. I mean, like, he was our ride. Like, I like the cabbie usually. Like,
I was cracking up the entire time because Milton was with them when they were in the club, and then the guys came in. He was help getting Greaves into the van. So
he was their lookout. He was trying to get in. The bouncer wouldn't let him in at first.
But yeah, no, he does help them kidnap Greaves, so he's a kidnapping accessory. Well, maybe that's what Polka Dot Man liked about him. He went to the life of crime real fast, no problem.
He was a part of the resistance that was like doing his own thing, and they knew that he would be reliable. But he was kind of like the soft guy of the group, which was great. I loved having that individual that is kind of like everybody's man.
Well, he's a chubby guy too, so I felt good, that there was a chubby guy in the flick. Now, can we talk about the fact that he was driving a dope conversion van?
Yeah. I want one of those. And I'm gonna check it out. I want to pick up the make it livable.
I want to talk about the generals, and yet I don't care. Like, there's nothing about that part of the story that even intrigues me.
I just like that Harley killed him when she's like, I gotta start breaking up the red flags. Like, it's a psychopath's way of growing. I can recognize red flags, so I could have just left, but no, I gotta kill
you. You could have hurt kids, man.
Yeah,
it was just so great.
I mean, she doesn't want to hurt kids now, so that's great.
And let's go. We did talk about Javelin Man.
Oh, Javelin, the German comedian.
Oh, yeah. The German. It's like, you are the only one.
Love your accent.
All American girls. Left my.
No, I love it.
While she talks in accent, say that we don't have any.
She was upholding her boundaries.
She was. I totally agree. Totally agree.
I wanted more from my after credit scene.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I was hoping for but I was hoping for something alluding to a further DC universe. That's all I was hoping for. And I don't mean
it was kind of like Black Widow, where it was just kind of leading up to something, something else, and it's just like,
or something we already knew about. Like, give me a cliffhanger scene where I'm like, wait, what? And that's like where that's not what they did.
I feel like the DCEU's universe is already like multiverse timeline broken up. Like, it's already a madness that I don't care. Just give me stuff at this point. I'll watch it. Like,
well, see, that's the thing. Like, a lot of people have said that like the whole DCEU is disjointed, and what's hilarious is that that's how the comic books are. They're completely disjointed. There is no multiverse the way that people assume there is in the DC comics at all. Like, there's a few crossover events, but it's not like Marvel at all. And like, you can go read Batman and it's Batman. Like, it has nothing to do with the rest of the DC universe. You can do that with most of the characters. And then when they do the same thing with the movies, people are like, what the hell? And I'm like, just watch the movies. Like, don't expect those Easter eggs because you're not going to get them the way that Marvel's been written since the 1960s. It's still continually the same universe after 80 years. Like, that's one of the reasons I'm a Marvel fan. And the reason the two people sitting next to me are huge Marvel fans because of that interconnectivity and the storytelling. Anyway, sorry.
Let's do have Marvel.
But at the same time, we're also DC fans, and we're excited as much as anybody else would be when there's a good DC film.
Right.
It's just, I feel like I said in the past, it is not necessary to do what the MCU is doing. Just write good stories and produce good films based off of your properties. I mean, if you go to HBO Max and you watch The Titans, or you see Doom Patrol, DC has the chops to do some fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to do this cookie cutter image. And I feel like, I know people are going to hate me for this. Get David Ayer and get Zack Snyder's, vision of stuff out of there, and let's go back to a more basic, DC, universe of characters. We don't need all of this stylized, like 300s type stuff. Just give us a good story.
Yeah.
People watched Batman on TV for 4 years because it was fun. I'm talking about in the 60s. Like,
Yeah.
they watched that ridiculous. I don't even like it. I'm one of the weirdos that doesn't like Adam West Batman, but they watched it because it was just fun and interesting. You
Right.
don't have to make everything broody. And the fact that Superman broods harder than Angel bugs me.
Yeah.
Like, that character needs to be the shining, glowing beacon of light on the hill. And if he's not,
Yeah.
where's the beacon of light in your whole universe? Like, there isn't one, and the DC universe is missing its beacon. And that's what bothers me. Like, in the Marvel universe, you have several beacons to look at. You're like, oh, look, Captain America. There's a good guiding light. I can follow that. But where is it with Superman? That dude will kill people if you put him in the wrong situation. Like, I can't.
Yeah.
I
Lies. No, he won't.
And listen, as big of a Marvel fan I am a huge Dark Knight trilogy fan. It was a great trilogy, and it was standalone.
Right. Although it would have been cool to have a Robin and then Nightwing trilogy right after that with Joko Levitt.
Yeah.
Like, and have Robin be like his own weird thing, like without Batman, and make it really odd, and have him like trying to do it as a kid on his own, and Batman's never existed, like weird alternate universe. Okay, I'm just making crap up. That aside,
I'll watch it.
I don't. If it was Jogo Levy, I'd watch it just because I like that guy. Yeah, I don't know what else we could do other than rate this film and talk about the fact that next week we're going to be doing a lot of What If, which means we're going to probably do more comic book movie stuff, just because that's how are we not going to do that?
Bread and butter.
It is right now, for sure. I think as the summer winds down, we'll probably, get into some horror, and we'll get into some other, maybe some dramas that we've missed out on for the summer, because there's been some good films that have come out. But definitely, we're not going to just do comic book movies. It's just what's really big right now. What If is going to be the shit. It's going to be the bees.
Oh my goodness. I can't.
It's going to be butter to my bread. I can't wait.
Which episode are you guys most excited for?
I'm excited. I'm honestly excited to see T'Challa be Star-Lord. I'm excited to see what that is. What that'll be about.
That'd be cool. That'll be cool. I do want to see Peggy Carter as a super soldier. I think that's going to be exciting.
Agent Carter or Captain Carter.
Mm.
Yes.
Captain Britain. Yeah.
I was looking at GameStop, and I actually found the Gamora, daughter of Thanos, and for some reason that seems like a very intriguing storyline. Like, what if Gamora was on her dad's side? Like, what would that entail?
Star Panther.
But ultimately,
I'm excited about it too. Yeah. Like, what if was Killmonger saving Tony? I just want to see them all. They all seem stupid interesting, and I'm excited for all of them.
And the zombie hunter Spider-Man, because that's what he is with the cloak of levitation.
Can we go back to Killmonger for just a second? So Killmonger is Stark, essentially, in that version of What If, right? So he's the one in the cave that gets taken out. Am I right? Taken by the
That's what I'm saying.
That's what it seems like, right? So my question is: it Jensen in the cave with him still, or is it another character?
Why did your voice get deep like that, or is it another character?
I don't know. I'm wondering what they're going to do with that, because Jensen is a very small part, but they could plop in a big MCU character for something like that and have it change.
Maybe Aldrich Killian,
something like that. So I don't know. And I'm a weirdo. That's why I said it like that. Right? No. Okay.
You're not weirdo. Well,
I'm not.
Anything beyond what we already are.
So
weird is the normal.
Weird is the new normal. So the question is, what do we rate this film? What do we rate this film? The Suicide Squad.
Yes, the film we're talking about.
Okay, I just want to make sure we weren't rating What If, just in case. So,
and we're gonna rate what we haven't seen. Wait. Are we Are we like Captain Marvel haters that we're rating something before we see it?
I'll rate this first.
Please.
I was worried about this movie. I wasn't sure I should always trust in James Gunn, but you can't always, because even I actually would have preferred they would have backed off on the killing in Guardians 2, because this is the movie he wanted to make with all the murder, and I think there's a little too much gratuitous murder in a PG-13 movie, but we can talk about that another time. For me, because it's Gunn, because he does such a good job, I got to give him a 10 out of 10, because I think he hit the mark and it lives up to the hype. For me, a movie that can go past the hype that I keep hearing, because everybody, Straw Hat, Jay Stoobs, everybody and their brother was talking, oh, 9.7, this thing's getting a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I was like, man, you guys are going to make me hate this movie, because you guys are talking it up so much that I'm going to walk in and it's going to be a giant turd. And it lives up to the hype. So 10 out of 10. Kid me, 11.
Kid you 11. That's not.
Kid me sneaking it after my parents see it.
Kid me
I have to
watching
sneak
it 3
from my
times in a
mom.
row, right? Anyway,
Yeah.
Black Girl Marvel, what do you think?
Kid me would never give anything a 10, because I've been a dick since I was a child, like I told you. So I think Kid me would have been like a high 9, like a high 9, right? I think Kid me would have been like a high 9. For me, I'm still not gonna give it a 10, so I give nothing a 10. I give it a nice 9.5, because I will watch it again. Like, I will watch it again to see if I can find any Easter eggs. I will watch it again to see, just to see like what I can get from it, But yeah. So.
And
So I have a hard time giving it a 10, just because I feel like if I do, it's because I'm so hyped up about it, and I'm afraid that if in a couple weeks I watch it again. But honestly, I watched Guardians and Guardians Volume 2, and I love them. The first time I saw Guardians, I was a little bit iffy about it, and then I loved it. And the more I watch it, the more I love those films. And I was very afraid that we were going to get a very Guardians of the Galaxy team up with the Suicide Squad. And then I forgot that this is the same James Gunn that had a hand in things like, Brightburn, the Belko Experiment. He's done some heavy hitters like Super and stuff like that, where he could do some very visceral, gory things, and he he's the kind of guy that is not afraid to try something and to even make a trope on his, or to joke about the tropes of his own movies. And from that, I found that I loved this film. I smiled the whole time through the whole film, and it was like sitting there and just being just happy just watching it. And so for me, I have to say if it's not like all movie things said, it's close to a 10, but also 9.5. Like, I'm like right there. Like, I almost want to, and like probably next week after I've watched it 5 or 6 more times, um, it'll definitely be a 10 for me. But I want to be cautiously optimistic, and say maybe 9.5 as the was it the 10-year-old me or 11-year-old me. I would have been sneaking the heck out of this stuff, and it would have been like a 20 for me. It was just a fantastic film. So I give it a 10 as a kid, and almost a 10 now. I'll say 9.5 for now.
And I think it's 12-year-old us that we just said, by the way.
Oh, 12-year-old. Okay. It's still, I wouldn't be allowed to watch it for another 5 years. So.
Yeah, no, see, I would have been able to watch this. My parents, yeah, I don't remember being censored by my parents on what to watch. Like, if anything, maybe like they wouldn't let sexual situations through. They're like, don't let. I'm like, you'll let me watch somebody get disemboweled, but you don't want me to see some skin. I always thought that was really odd.
Well, because for the most people, when you watch somebody disemboweled, you don't get excited that way. But we do live in a day and time where even that.
Yeah, I was like, what do you mean? I still get a weird excitement when I play GTA, and it makes me want to put the game down. I'm like, I don't like that I'm getting excited about being a criminal. I don't like this. It freaks me out. I don't like it. I don't like that feeling. And I know other people are. A lot of people feel that way when they play those games. That's why they play them. And I'm not saying it crosses the line. I don't believe that people watch entertainment and cross the line, but I do think people get good ideas from entertainment when they're ready to cross that line. So there's the difference. My parents did though. They let me watch whatever the hell I wanted, and I think that might have something to do with a lot of things. But anyway, so I don't think we have much more, unless the chat has anything they would like to add. But you guys have been keeping up pretty great and saying your piece. Oh, I thought that was somebody saying something. There it is. Oh no, that's Black Girl Marver.
That's just me. That's just me.
All right. So I guess we excluded them too much. So they're ignoring us. Should we raid anybody tonight, or should we call it good? I think we should raid somebody because it's always fun to be nice and share the
Yeah,
love.
absolutely.
So stick with us. Don't anybody go anywhere. Because if you do, then I won't get to raid with as many people. Is he doing more? Does anybody know if Gunn's doing any more DC?
So Warner Brothers came out and said that they are definitely sure that Gunn will do more DC properties. They just have not done anything to confirm what he would be doing.
All right.
So
Should we raid T-Pain?
Yes, please.
Really?
Yes.
go for it.
He's on. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, let's get a shout out from him.
Hopefully. He really just.
I want him to. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind James Gunn stepping away from comic book stuff and doing like a movie of his own creation, or giving us something new. Honestly.
I love his
Well, have
original
you-
work. Slither and Super are brilliant, so I'm with you on that. I would love to see more of his own
Yeah.
work.
I want to see more of his work.
All right,
He
guys.
dabbles in
let's go raid
everything.
I do hope you guys have a great evening.
Bye.
It is a follower, subscriber only chat, just so when you get there, remember. So, you guys have a great evening. We will see you next time on Real Triad Reviews.
3.